Do you have potential clients who are ghosting you and you're not sure what to do about it? When you're trying to get through to someone who you've had a meeting with and you thought it went well, and then all of a sudden you're reaching out to them and it's crickets, it can be super demoralizing. And I see a lot of people give up on the sale right then. There are a few things you can do when things are starting to go well and then kind of screech to a halt. This might be a situation where you spent weeks or months cultivating someone. You finally got on a call. It seemed like they were super interested and they said, send me some more information. And you did. But now when you're following up, they're not writing you back. Or maybe you even had a great first call where they were like, yeah, we want to do this. It was kind of like a verbal yes. But then when you follow up to actually get the contract signed, nothing, crickets. We've all been there and it can be very demoralizing. So there are three things you can do in this situation. And some of these, in fact, all of them have been used by former clients of mine to close deals. And I use them myself. The first one is something you should do in any situation where you have a setback in business. It's check your mindset. Meaning, what interpretation are you doing of why this person isn't getting back to you? If you're like most people, you're probably going to start by taking it personally. I thought we had such a good connection. Maybe I was wrong. Why don't they want to work with me? Why aren't they writing me back? Did I write the wrong thing? Did I follow up too soon? That whole train of thought that can really get us in our own way. So I want you to check your mindset and realize that their inbox is packed. Depending on the time of year, they may be under all kinds of other pressures. If it's almost the holidays, they're trying to tie things up for their boss, maybe. If it's almost the summer, maybe they're setting up summer vacation plans for their family. I have two kids, right? Getting everything ready for camp. It can all be a huge distraction. So make sure not to make it about you and don't assume the worst. Just assume they're busy, because if you want to be good at sales, you need to always go at it with a very positive mindset and attitude that it's not a no until it's a no. So if they haven't actually said no, it's still a possible yes. So first is check your mindset. The second thing is, if the way you reached out to them is not working, then change lanes. This comes out of an approach I have in New York, where sometimes you hop on the subway and they start talking about some big detour and you're going to be stalled for 20 minutes. I always change lanes. Just get out, take another train, because chances are you're going to be stuck there for a very long time. So I don't want you stuck in your lane when you're trying to follow up with someone. If you've sent an email or two emails even and you're not getting a response, text them if you have their cell phone number. If you don't have their cell phone number, hop on LinkedIn and say, oh, hey, by the way, I sent you an email. Not sure if you saw it. Or do you have a friend in common? Could you ask the friend to say, oh, hey, are you still thinking about working with Chloe? Do something to change lanes. And that can often get a response. One of our graduates of our sales program was struggling with this very thing when she was in our sales program. She'd had a great first meeting with someone in a large financial firm who was thinking of bringing her in to train not only him, but members of his team. And after they had this terrific meeting where she pretty much got a verbal yes, she was not getting answers to her emails about moving forward and getting the contract signed. So she used the next tactic I'm about to teach you, and that got the deal signed as soon as he got that next email. So the next thing you can do, the third thing you can do when you're getting crickets, is to do the job before you have the job. Meaning, when we're waiting for that green light, we're thinking of all these cool things we can do for the person once they say yes, or do with their company, or start delivering on those products and services. But there's a way that you can show your value before you even get the job, and it can start to build that trust and also make the deal close faster. So what my coaching client did is she sent the guy she had met with a very carefully chosen podcast that addressed the very issues that she was going to be coaching him and his team on. In that instance, it was about emotional intelligence. And even though she hadn't heard back from her prior two emails and was getting kind of nervous about the whole deal falling through, he immediately wrote back with a CC to his assistant, thanking her for the podcast and telling his assistant to get the paperwork going so they could sign her on. So you don't have to send a podcast. It could be an article. It could be a reference to something you two talked about on one of your calls. Maybe there's a TEDx talk all about that. You can certainly spend a few minutes going to hunt for something that would interest the person so that you can already start to show the value of working with you. I know this worked very well for me when I was picking a literary agent for my first book, Million Dollar Women. And I interviewed three literary agents, and they were all terrific. And it was hard to choose who I wanted to work with. One of them, and only one of them, sent me an email that said, "Oh, I was just at this panel at NYU last night. There were all these amazing women on the panel." And she sent me a link to what the panel was. She said, "This is exactly the kind of panel I see you on when Million Dollar Women is published." Well, that right away made me feel like, oh, she really gets me. She's already out there looking out for opportunities for me. And I went with that literary agent. So, what can you do to do the job before you get the job? And that may be the thing that reignites the conversation. So, quick recap: if you're getting traction with a potential client and they all of a sudden ghost you, we hate that, then you got to do those three things. Check your mindset, make sure you're not making it about you, taking it personally. I always like to say, never react until you have all the data. And silence is not data. If they say no, that's a no. But if they haven't said no, then the ball is still in play. The second thing you can do is to change lanes. If you've been emailing, send a text. If they're not answering the text, go on LinkedIn. Find someone you know in common who can reach out to them. Do anything to change lanes. Show up at an event where you might see them. All these things can be super effective. And the third thing is to do the job before you have the job. Find some little way of starting to show the value of working with you. And the side benefit of doing that is that often people feel very guilty when they haven't gotten back to your email. So rather than saying something like, "Hey, I see you haven't answered my email yet," or "I emailed you a few days ago, but I still haven't heard," then just go in as though you don't even care that they haven't gotten back to you and show this value. They'll be so relieved that you're not calling them out on not getting back to their email. And it starts a whole new positive conversation about the podcast or the article or the book or whatever it is you're sending to them. All right, I hope you use one of those to close more deals. In the meantime, stay brave and go big.